Does kindness make you an idiot? We're told that putting others first makes us moral, but what if that's a lie? Ayn Rand believed kindness, when blind or forced, turns you into a pawn. This is why kind people are idiots. Altruism is a word that sounds noble but hides a darker meaning, at least according to Ayn Rand. Today, most people think of altruism as a simple act of kindness, donating to charity, helping a friend in need, or holding the door open for someone. But for Rand, altruism wasn't about these small gestures. It was about the moral framework behind them, which she saw as a dangerous trap. To understand why Rand was so critical of altruism, we need to look at the concept's roots. The term was coined by Auguste Comte, a 19th century French philosopher, but Comte didn't define altruism as occasional generosity. To him, altruism meant living entirely for others, always putting their needs first. He argued that true morality meant sacrificing your own goals, dreams, and happiness to serve the greater good. Anything you did for your own benefit? Comte saw that as selfish and morally wrong. Rand thought this mindset was dangerous. In The Virtue of Selfishness, she called altruism a system that turns people into sacrificial animals. Think about it. What if your entire worth was tied to how much you gave to others? Every decision you made, every moment of your life would revolve around meeting someone else's needs. Your dreams would no longer be yours. Instead, they'd belong to everyone around you. Rand argued this wasn't just exhausting. It was a path to guilt and self-destruction. Once sacrifice becomes a moral duty, it's no longer a choice. Every request for your time or help becomes something you're obligated to fulfill. You can't say no without feeling like you're doing something wrong. And that's exactly what Rand found so destructive. Altruism, in her view, doesn't stop at generosity. It turns life into a constant cycle of giving until you have nothing left. We see this idea played out in Atlas Shrugged through the character Eddie Willers. Eddie is loyal, hardworking, and always focused on helping others, especially the Taggart family. He never asks for recognition or reward, he just works tirelessly to support the company and the people around him. But when the company collapses, Eddie is abandoned. Years of loyalty and sacrifice leave him with nothing. Eddie's story shows what happens when you live entirely for others. You lose your identity, your purpose, and everything you worked for. Eddie's story isn't the only parallel for Rand's work. In We the Living, Kira Argonova faces a similar struggle. Trapped in Soviet Russia, she's expected to sacrifice her personal dreams for the collective good. But Kira fights back. She refuses to give up her ambitions and let the system dictate her life. Her defiance is a central theme in Rand's philosophy. You should live for yourself, not for others. One of the best examples of Rand's warning about altruism comes from The Fountainhead and the character Peter Keating. On paper, Keating seems like the kind of person who should succeed. He's smart, talented, and ambitious. But there's a problem. He doesn't follow his own vision. Instead, he spends his life trying to please others. Keating builds his career by designing buildings that aren't a reflection of his ideas, but of what he thinks other people want. His goal isn't to create something meaningful, it's to win approval. He climbs the corporate ladder, earns promotions, and wins awards, but beneath the surface, he's slowly falling apart. Then there's Howard Rourke, the hero of The Fountainhead in the embodiment of Ayn Rand's ideal man. Rourke is independent, confident, and completely loyal to his vision. Unlike Peter Keating, who bends under the pressure of others' opinions, Rourke stands firm, no matter what. When clients demand that he change his designs to fit popular trends, Rourke refuses. He doesn't care if it costs him the job or leaves him struggling financially. To him, success isn't about pleasing others. It's about staying true to what he believes is right. So why is Rourke able to resist where Keating fails? It's because Rourke lives by what Rand called rational self-interest. This doesn't mean being selfish or greedy. It means making decisions that align with your values. Rourke isn't interested in exploiting anyone, but he refuses to be exploited either. One of the best examples of this is Rourke's relationship with Gail Wynand, a powerful newspaper publisher who admires Rourke's integrity but struggles with his own. Wynand built his fortune by compromising his values and printing stories that catered to the public interest instead of his beliefs. But Rourke, despite being offered money and influence, never compromises himself to fit Wynand's expectations. Rourke helps Wynand, but not because he feels obligated or guilty. He helps because he sees value in Wynand's potential. His kindness isn't blind or forced, it's a choice. Rourke's kindness, by contrast, is intentional. He gives when it matters and only when it makes sense to him. He knows if you give up your core beliefs to satisfy others, you end up like Peter Keating, lost and bitter. Rand's fear of altruism wasn't just some abstract idea. It came from real personal experience. She grew up in Soviet Russia, where the government constantly told people to sacrifice their individual goals for the greater good. But this wasn't about helping others out of kindness. Instead, it was a way to control them. The state demanded that people give up their dreams, work harder, and expect nothing in return. Rand saw how this played out in everyday life. In We the Living, her semi-autobiographical novel, she tells the story of Kira Argunova, a young woman with a dream of becoming an engineer. But in a society where ambition is seen as selfish, Kira is punished simply for wanting to live her own life. Her story shows how altruism, when used as a political weapon, can destroy individual freedom. In the Soviet Union, people sacrificed endlessly, believing it would create a better society, but instead, they were left with poverty and oppression. Rand saw this as proof that living for others doesn't lead to happiness. It leads to control and misery. Let's talk about selfishness. It's a word that usually makes people uncomfortable. Most of us think it means being greedy or uncaring, but Rand had a completely different definition. In The Virtue of Selfishness, she explained that selfishness isn't about stepping on others. It's about prioritizing your own well-being and success while respecting others' rights to do the same. Rand's idea of selfishness is based on what she called rational self-interest. This means making choices that benefit you without hurting others. It's about being productive, honest, and responsible for your own life. One example of this is Dagny Taggart from Atlas Shrugged. Dagny is a strong, ambitious woman who runs a railroad company. Even when the government makes her job difficult with regulations, she refuses to give up. Dagny doesn't expect others to solve her problems. She finds solutions on her own. Her success not only benefits her, but also the thousands of employees and customers who rely on her company. Rand believed that this is what rational self-interest looks like. When you take care of yourself, you naturally create value for others. Rand compares this with characters like Ellsworth Tuhey from the Fountainhead. Tuhey is the opposite of Dagny. He's manipulative and uses people's guilt to control them. He convinces them that self-sacrifice is noble, but really, it's a way for him to gain power. So what's the difference between destructive selfishness and the kind Rand believed in? Well, it comes down to intention. True selfishness isn't about greed or harming others. It's about building something valuable, working hard, and refusing to let guilt or social pressure make you give up on your dreams. We hear it all the time. Help others, it's the right thing to do. But what if that advice, when taken too far, does more harm than good? Rand argued that when helping others becomes an expectation instead of a choice, it's no longer kindness, it's a trap. A great example of this comes from Hank Rearden in Atlas Shrugged. Rearden is a brilliant industrialist who invented a revolutionary metal that could change the world. But instead of being praised, he's pressured into handing it over to the government for the common good. At first, he gives in, thinking he's done the right thing by helping others. But the problem? Once he starts giving, they keep asking for more. What happens next is exactly what Rand warned about. Reardon's sacrifice doesn't bring appreciation, it brings more demands. No matter how much he gives, it's never enough. Rand used his story to highlight a painful truth. When you give without limits, people will take without limits. But Rand wasn't against generosity. She believed in charity when it comes from genuine desire, not guilt. When you give because you want to, that's kindness. But when you give because society makes you feel like you have to, that's exploitation. So how do you apply this to your everyday life? It starts with asking yourself some hard questions. Are you saying yes to others because you genuinely want to help? Or because you're afraid of disappointing them? Are you pursuing your dreams? Or are you stuck fulfilling someone else's expectations? Rand's philosophy isn't about being selfish, it's about being smart. If you keep sacrificing your time, money, or energy for everyone else, you'll end up like Reardon, overworked and underappreciated. But if you're more like Howard Rourke from the Fountainhead, you'll learn to say no when it's necessary and yes when it aligns with your values. So the next time someone asks for your help, think about whether it's really worth it. If it's a genuine act of kindness that you want to do, then go for it. But if it's something you're doing just because you feel obligated, take a step back. Remember, even the kindest people need boundaries. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to explore more thought-provoking content on our channel. Like and share to keep the conversation going, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on future videos. See you next time.